The Nishna Heritage Museum Productions presents Western Expansion Series. Hello, fellow history seekers. This is the first episode of this channel and series. I will be your online guide for this series. You can call me Willa, a common name inspired by Western expansion. I hope all is well. I'm going to lead you on the journey of the narratives of Western expansion and its connection to Oakland Isle, and of course its importance to American history. The artifacts talked about and seen in this series of videos are presented with the help of a hidden jewel of the Nishna Heritage Museum in Oakland, Iowa. So with that out of the way, let's go. Western expansion began long before the creation of the state of Iowa, but it helps for context on the understanding of how people settled in the place that is now called Iowa and the rest of the West. It started in 1801, but it did not truly begin until 1803. This is because in 1803, Thomas Jefferson, who it was now the third president of the United States, negotiated a treaty with France in which the United States paid France $15 million for the Louisiana Territory, which is 828,000 square miles of land west of the Mississippi River, which is now called the Louisiana Purchase. It expanded everything from the original 13 colonies and the Missouri area to the west of the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains. Of course, this is a lot of land. But Jefferson did not let normal people take the land at first. He sponsored the Lewis and Clark exploration in the same year. Lewis and Clark, who were both explorers, would travel all over the land and would end their journey with the help of Native Americans like Sacagawea, along with her fur trader husband and her son that she would give birth to on the journey and would also be raised by Mr. Clark later on in his life. They eventually ended their journey, but numerous sources believe that Lewis and Clark may have ended their journey either in Oregon or California. It just depends. They returned to Washington, D.C., completing their journey in 1806. After hearing their stories of their journey and looking at the markings of the trails that they created during their journey, Thomas Jefferson and the government encouraged people to move west. They did this with acts like the Homestead Act that gave people free land if they could live on the land and sustain it for several years, but mostly 5 to 10 years. The government and artists would encourage them by telling them it was God's will to move west with the idea of a manifest destiny and painting images of what the West looked like. For example, the painting called Westward the Course of Empire Takes Its Way, which is a mural study at the U.S. Capitol, was created in 1861 by Emanuel Gottlieb Lutze. Sorry for my pronunciation. This painting not only creates an idea of the landscapes of Western America, but that people in the relatively new United States of America must move west because it is God's will, and it will provide a new beginning for them. With the government and social approval of moving west, people were persuaded to move west. But this journey is not for the weak-hearted or absent-minded. Now, with the context of the beginning of the Western expansion out of the way, let's get to the journey. Well, a family or individual would have to agree to make the journey, and many did, with the encouragement of the Homestead Act and the promise of a new life on their mind. Now, because of the Lewis and Clark exploration, where they mapped certain trails for the future uses, like helping individuals move west, some of the trails included the Lewis and Clark, California, Oregon, Santa Fe, and Pony Express, and also many others. These trails expanded throughout the West, giving people choices to go anywhere in the West. With these trails in mind, it was up to the families to where they wished to go, or where the government had given them the land. So if a family wanted to go to Nebraska or Iowa, they would most likely take the Lewis and Clark Trail or the Pony Express Trail. The Pony Express Trail was a significant trail because it stretched from Missouri to California, and it touched Nebraska, Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, and parts of Kansas. The city would start at St. Joseph's and would end in Sacramento, California. If you look at the artifact, it has names of riders on this trail. According to the artifact, the first rider is named Alex Carl. The only research I could find on this man was that he was born in 1836 and died in 1886 in the Wyoming Territory, where he might have settled when he took the trail. He was married to a woman named Olivia, but it is also unknown if they had any children. Regardless, the names on the artifacts are all interesting because some of the writers have nicknames and some writers tell how they died. For example, the first name, Billy Pate, was killed by Native Americans, or on the artifact it says Indians, and one name, Robert Haslam, was nicknamed Pony Bob. Okay then, this is very easy to find the names because they are also in alphabetical order. It also has artistic value because throughout the trail, you can see it depicts scenes and folklore of Western expansion that paints the West as an interesting destination. With some of the art, it is not surprising to me that people would find this interesting and have inspiration to move west. With the trail in mind, once they figure out where they wish to go, they need to prepare for it. Unlike in the current times, these journeys would take months to get to their new home. The family or individual would have to pack months of supplies of food and tools. They would have to pack the valuables of their old home and weapons, if they had any, because they would have to hunt on the trail and protect themselves from people who wish them harm, which in their eyes would be hostile Native Americans or robbery bandits. Also, the people would have to get some medical supplies because if any of them were to be harmed through sickness or disease, they would have to treat themselves. As I said, it would not be an easy journey with many life-threatening obstacles. Most of the time, it would be better for people to travel with other individuals going on the same journey for these very reasons. But with or without a group, they would still have to face these challenges. With all these supplies, they would have to make sure these essentials fit in the wagon. This subject, an artifact of accurate Western expansion traveling, especially with the help of the visual video game, the Oregon Trail, it is structured with wheel and axle running gear to support the top box, which would hold the supplies and people on the journey. The axle would attach the wagon wheels so that they could be in sync with each other so the box would be stable on any terrain. The wagon would also be made of wood, but most wagons would have to have an extra layer of the structure and wooden braces to hold a cloth around the top structure as a cover for the supplies and people. An averaged covered wagon itself would be 9 feet high with a 10-foot long bed, which would be the top box. They would be called wagon trains, with numerous of these wagons in a group. Teams of 10 to 12 horses or mules or 6 yoked oxen would have to pull this wagon up and down the terrain of the journey. With all the journeys, the people would have to travel through hills, deserts, mountains, and other terrain that is unlike the terrain of the new United States of America. There were numerous different types of wagons, but the only difference would be how big they were and who created them. The dimensions we talked about before would be the average wagon that most people would use for their journey. The wagon you see in the picture is most likely a Murphy wagon because the other wagons are longer and curved. The Murphy wagon was the most familiar wagon than the others. Joseph Murphy, who was the creator of the wagon, created them for the travelers to go to Santa Fe. However, he would eventually create them for overland exploration west of Missouri that wasn't just Santa Fe. This particular wagon would haul about 1,800 to 2,200 pounds. The wagon would probably hold numerous families based on how many people were in that family. That is why most wagon trains would hold at least 50 families for a journey. The cotton cover would provide shade and protection from the elements or other dangers, which we will talk about in another episode. The wagons were not invincible, though. These wagons could break, which would cause a huge problem for the families because they would have to walk the rest of the way, where they would have to carry whatever they could, which could not be everything, the rest of the way. Also, they would be vulnerable to the elements and would most likely die from them. But as I said, that is a risk they would have to take, and the journey of the wagon trains and the Western trails was only the beginning. There's so much more to come for them. These wagons with oxen or horses would be the lifeline for families to carry everything from their old home to their new home in the West. With these trails and wagons, people would move further west and establish homes and a better life for future generations. Wagons transported the people, and the trails gave guidance to these travelers on where they could go to settle this life they dreamed of. These artifacts that you see in this video would be the first thing these travelers would see, besides their supplies, of course. But that is only one part of the journey of Western expansion. So let's move forward. Oh, but that's for another episode. See you then, because I need to make my own journey west, and my wagon is already ready to go. Bye.